Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to you all. I hope you had a chance to enjoy the slideshow that just finished in the prelude. I thank you for joining tonight for this special event where we're going to induct Captain Retired Billy Dodson as one of the Navy Supply Corps Foundation's distinguished alumni. And I appreciate everyone bearing with us as we go into the virtual world for this evening for the ceremony. But I imagine many of you are already becoming real pros at Zoom, so it shouldn't be too different for you. Well, first off, let me give a special welcome to several of our attendees this evening. We've got retired Vice Admiral L. Thompson, former Director of DLA, Chief of Supply Corps and Commander NAVSUP. Retired Rear Admiral Linda Bird, who was our past chair of the foundation. Retired Rear Admiral Steve Moss, a former board member of the foundation. And Rear Admiral Retired Fenton Priest. We also have Captain Retired Bud Schiff, head of our Distinguished Alumni Program, and also one of our previous DA inductees. So welcome to you all, and welcome to the rest of the board members that are with us this evening. As part of our official party today, we have Rear Admiral Ken Epps from Fleet Forces Command as our guest speaker. He'll be providing some comments on our newest distinguished alumnus, Billy Dodson. You'll hear more about both of them in just a minute. And I'm Mike Lydon, I'll be your chair. I'm the chair of the foundation, and I'll be your MC for the ceremony this evening. Now, since we have some guests from outside the supply community, let me spend just a brief moment talking about our foundation. And first off, our membership consists of everyone who has ever worn the oak leaf as a Supply Corps officer. Veterans, retirees, active duty, reserves. Once you graduate from the Navy Supply Corps School, wherever it was, you're a member for life. And the foundation traces its history back to 1970. Its mission, to provide programs and services to support the Navy Supply Corps community and promote its heritage and traditions. Now, the lifeblood of the foundation rests with its chapters. And as of today, there are 38 chapters worldwide in places such as Japan, Djibouti, Bahrain, Sicily, Spain, and obviously all across the United States. And we deliver a full range of programs, including scholarships, recognition, such as we're doing this evening with the Distinguished Alumni Award, heritage, which includes especially a vintage oak leaf club of members over 90 years old. And I know that's something that we all aspire to be members of. Family assistance, and finally transition support. In short, we take care of our own across the entire supply community. Now, the Distinguished Alumni Award itself was established in 1989, and it's intended to recognize retired and former Supply Corps officers who have gone on to distinguish themselves with outstanding contributions in either the public or the private sector. Now, each of them has three things in common. First, they were successful Supply Corps officers. Second, they had significant second, third, and more career achievements after they left the Supply Corps. And third, probably most important to me, they credit their Supply Corps experience as the basic foundation for their further professional achievements. Now, I invite you to the foundation website to review the full list of previous distinguished alumni representing the best of government, academia, business, and industry. And shown on the screen are just a few examples. Mr. Bill Groover up at the top left, our inductee last year. You might recognize Roger Staubach in the top middle, and former Secretary of Defense Melvin Laird in the top right. Bill Marriott Jr., bottom left, the late Rear Admiral Dodson Angelo in the bottom middle, and in the bottom right is the late Regis Philbin. And before we recognize Billy, I'd like to formally introduce tonight's guest speaker, Rear Admiral Ken Epps. Now, he's currently the Deputy Chief of Staff for Fleet Ordnance and Supply, the Fleet Supply Officer for Fleet Forces Command. Quite a big title and quite a big job. But more importantly, for anyone looking to map out an extraordinary career, I point you to Rear Admiral Epps. From a Supply Corps school instructor and flag aide, to the heart of Navy planning in the Pentagon, to demanding tours at the Naval Inventory Control Point and NAVSUB headquarters, to joint tours within Defense Logistics Agency and the Joint Staff J4, and to the pinnacle of command at the Fleet Logistics Center in Pearl Harbor. He's done it all. And oh, by the way, he was also the supply officer of the best ship in the Navy, the USS Carl Vinson. It's been an incredible run, and now as a flag officer, he is positioned to continue his contributions well into the future. Along with these accomplishments in his career, he remains an extraordinary gentleman, a sterling example of Supply Corps values, and a very approachable mentor to those he leads. We also appreciate his previous service as a member of the Foundation Board, and particularly as chair of the Scholarship Committee. Ladies and gentlemen, Rear Admiral Epps.
Thank you, Admiral Lydon. It's obviously an honor to be here tonight, and I'm especially delighted by the opportunity to celebrate one of our own. I know you already recognize them, but I want to make sure I recognize some of the special visitors in our virtual Zoom room tonight. Admirals Thompson, Admirals Byrd, Admiral Moss, Admiral Priest, and my very good friend, Bud Schiff. I can't see you on here, but it's good to know that you were there in Zoom land, and we thank you for gracing us with your presence. And to the members of Captain Dodson's family, we are delighted that you could join us today. As Admiral Lydon said, as a former Supply Corps Foundation board member, I more than most can really appreciate what a great honor we're bestowing upon Captain Billy Dodson this evening. But there are a couple of things about today's recognition of Billy that really resonate with me. And the first one is pretty simple. I know Billy. Billy and I served together on the NSCS staff circa 1994 to 1996. Now, back then, it was Lieutenant Commander Dodson, or Sir, on my end. But he was, you know, it's so funny what a small world we live in, right? He was a terrific guy back then to me, and he's even a more terrific guy today. And I know that because Billy works about 50 steps away from my office every day at Fleet Forces. So I get to see him in action, and we work very closely together. So it's just a special honor to be able to do this. As Admiral Lydon said, over the years, we've picked a bevy of our most illustrious Supply Corps alums, persons of distinction who, as he said, have gone on to scale great heights in business and in academia and in government. And we're equally proud of all of them, 201. But what I especially love about Billy's selection tonight is really kind of how he got here and how it sort of deviates from the traditional path that it takes to join this very august group. A love affair that began 20 years ago, almost to this day, when he made a trip that many of us, and I know in my case it certainly is, a trip that many of us include on our bucket list, which is to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. I mean, it's the first thing I want to do when I retire. And Billy made this trip about 20 years ago, and that from that day on and that trip grew a lifelong attachment to Africa and a real love affair with its land, its people, and the habitat. On a subsequent trip back to Africa, and he has made many, so I'm sure he'll mention this during his speech, Billy decided he wanted to capture his memories. So he made a significant investment that probably was the one turning point in this career and led him to him being here today. And that turning point was he decided to invest in a serious camera. So he bought his first real camera in around 2005 and 6, and the rest, as they say, is history. As his passion for conservation merged with his photographic prowess, he was able to marry the two passions together to benefit the African Wildlife Foundation. Now, I didn't know much about the African Wildlife Foundation prior to this week, but when I was doing some research, one of the books that Billy's photographs is a prominent part of, the foreword was by Jane Goodall. And I knew if Jane Goodall was going to forward this book, it had to be something pretty significant. But in my research, I discovered that the African Wildlife Foundation is the world's leading conservation organization focused on African wildlife and its wild lands. Their work has been instrumental in protecting endangered species and preserving their natural habitats on one of Earth's grandest stages. And Billy's work, through his world-class eye, through the articles he writes for journals, and through the speeches that he has done over the years, have played a critical role in advancing the altruistic agenda of this great organization. Billy's selection as a Supply Corps Distinguished Alumnus this year proves that success can be defined in many different ways. Some do it by being captains of industry, others go on to great athletic feats, and some people become notable TV personalities. But this year, Billy's proves that selfless service to something bigger than you can be equally meaningful, impactful, and really warranting of recognition. Billy, congratulations on your designation today. I know those of us who work with you at Fleet Forces and throughout the greater Hampton Road Supply Corps Foundation arena are very proud of you, and I'm especially proud of you, having known you for all this time. But who I'm especially excited about are the rest of the community, in particular the young Supply Corps junior officers who today have another role model that they get to look up to. Well done, Billy, and congratulations. And with that, Admiral Leiden, I will turn it back over to you. Thank you very much.
Okay, well thank you very much, Admiral Epps, for some great comments and very heartfelt observations. And I couldn't agree with you more. You know, I mentioned it before about the criteria for our DA nominations, and I was completely taken back by what Billy has accomplished in his follow-on careers, as the Admiral just talked about. So let me just add a few thoughts to that wonderful background that we just received. And when I think about it, many of us talk about what dream job or what our dream job would be for retirement. And as you just heard, Billy obviously found his and made some extraordinary contributions in the process. You know, as we heard from a photo safari in Africa, he found his passion in wildlife photography and ended up sharing it with the world through his books and other expositions and experiences. And when you look at his pictures, and I hope you had a chance to do it earlier this evening, you can see that he has captured not only the essence of Africa or of the African world and its wildlife and people, but he's also helped build a message of importance in safeguarding and preserving this ecosystem. Here he has become an international supporter, leveraging his extraordinary skills and support of critical wildlife conservation efforts in Africa. And bottom line, he's helping to preserve what he loves so much for generations to come. And what a wonderful contribution. With that, I think his work speaks for itself. I wholeheartedly encourage you to visit the website and see more of his work and his ongoing efforts. And so, Billy, at this point, I'm supposed to ask you up to join me at the podium, but I don't think that's going to work tonight. So we'll just have to join each other in spirit across the internet this evening. So it's time to make you official. And I'll now read the award certificate to formally recognize Captain Retired Billy Dodson as a distinguished alumnus of the Navy Supply Corps Foundation. And the certificate reads, Distinguished Alumnus Award to all who shall see these presents greetings. Know that the Navy Supply Corps Foundation has selected Captain Billy Dodson as a distinguished alumnus of the Navy Supply Corps for lifelong achievement and dedicated service to the Supply Corps and civilian community, awarded 27 August 2020 by the Chairman, Navy Supply Corps Foundation, Mike Lyden. So ladies and gentlemen, may I present our newest distinguished alumnus, Captain Retired Billy Dodson. And if you know how to do the little clapping button, you can push that now, whatever. But please join me in congratulating Billy. Okay, so Billy, you're still on the podium, so keep that in mind. But we have more for you here. And we know what an extraordinary book you published. We just heard about it, and your passion for wildlife. We'd like to present you with a copy of our book, Ready for Sea, The History of the U.S. Navy Supply Corps. It provides a Supply Corps timeline and history since our beginning. I hope you really enjoy it. We also have a small reminder of today's ceremony, an engraved clock, and Dan Pionk will ensure that it safely gets to you along with the coin and the lapel pin. And the engraving on the clock reads, 2009 Distinguished Alumnus Award, Captain Billy Dodson, Supply Corps, retired as a distinguished alumnus of the Navy Supply Corps for lifelong achievements and dedicated service to the Supply Corps and civilian community. Again, congratulations. And now it's time for me to turn the ceremony over to you, Billy, for your comments.
Thanks, Admiral, and thank you, Admiral Epps, Admiral Byrd, Dan, and all the members of the Foundation Board. This is a heck of an honor, one that I never expected that I would receive. And there are an awful lot of interesting angles to this, and to me, the most special thing about it really is to be in the same class as Admiral Ted Walker. He wouldn't know me from Adam on the street, but I know him as every Supply Corps officer should know him. He literally is a living legend. And I look forward to being in the audience when his award is delivered to him. So that's one of the great things about this. Something else that's really cool about it is that the class of 2020, it has been one strange year. And consistent with that theme, I would like to announce that I believe I'm the first person ever to receive this award while wearing flip-flops. In general terms, I'll just say that the Navy was the best thing that ever happened to me. It really was. I know that this award honors post-Navy achievement, but I could not have done what I do without having served for 26 years in the Navy. As Admiral Epps mentioned, the obsession began in 2001. I went to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. I went for an 8-day safari on the completion of the climb, and that's when the problem began. I had Africa on the brain, and it happens to people. You get what they call the Africa bug, and that's what happened to me. So in 2005, as the Admiral said, I went back with a real camera. I took an awful lot of pictures. What I thought at that time was a lot of photographs, about 5,000 or so in a 3-week trip. Now that's about 2 days worth. But when I got him back, I looked at these things and I thought, you know, these are pretty good actually. And so I searched around for some conservation organizations that might be able to use them. So that's how I found the African Wildlife Foundation. And the relationship that I have developed with them has literally changed my life. They do use my photographs for their public relations and fundraising and their annual reports, etc. But then when they found out that I could write, that added a new dimension to the relationship, because I was asked to write articles for them, and they would send me to some really out of the way places. I've been to Sabi Valley to track down rhinos in Zimbabwe. The craziest thing I've ever done in my life is go to the jungles of the DRC looking for bonobos, and that's a dangerous place. And after a while, I definitely got the impression that when they asked me to travel to someplace like that, it was because none of them wanted to go. They needed the article and they needed the photographs, but they weren't stupid enough to make that trip themselves. But I was that stupid, and I have no regrets. What has it meant to me? My work was noticed. Anytime a major news outlet or a museum, if they need photographs of Africa, they contact the African Wildlife Foundation. And as a general rule, they'll give them my photographs. And that's why my images have been published where they have in the major newspapers. And even now, in the Smithsonian Museum of American History, my elephant photographs are on display. I just wish that I could go up and see those because the museum's closed right now because of the coronavirus. But on a personal level, I always wanted to make my mark in the world. I wanted to leave a legacy, and I knew that I would. I did not know what that legacy would be, but this is it. It's conservation of African wildlife and habitat. And it's also given me the opportunity to visit places and to do things that I really can't even describe to you here. It's almost unbelievable. And I've had many, many people tell me how jealous they are that I get a chance to go to Africa 3 or 4 times a year and take photographs, and it must be the coolest thing in the world. I can confirm that. It absolutely is. But I could never do that without the support and the understanding of family and employers. And yes, I do have a job. If you support African wildlife or any conservation effort, you can do good, but you can't do well. You can't make a living at it. So, you have to split your time. In order to do that, I have to have the understanding of the people that I work with. In this case, it's the people at Fleet Forces Command. And I'm going to mention a few names here, and I'm going to cheat and read them because I'm afraid I would leave somebody out. But Admiral Epps, obviously, Admiral Pete Stamatopoulos, Captains Marty Fields, Mark Runstrom, Jonathan Haynes, and Captain Mark Bomer just reported he'll get his chance. And also at the action officer level, Xavier Lugo, Dave Jones, Tara Hodge, Diana Delphonse, Tam Sonnen, Greg Mitchell, Mike Key, Jamie Steffensmeyer, and of course, my illustrious hero and evil co-conspirator, Mr. Tim Ross. From the character perspective, I had a lot of great mentors and friends in the Navy. Admiral Steve Moss, Admiral Al Thompson, who we had some rough days together on the Navy staff up at N41 that I'll never forget, but he influenced me as much as anybody that I ever met in the Navy. Fenton Priest, a great friend and mentor, and Matt Culbertson, Russ Rowe, and my 2 Lyns, Lynn Sapera down in Athens and Leonard Hammond out in Hawaii, who I hope is tuned in right now. Also, my employers at CACI, the deal that we've worked is basically this. If the Navy is okay with me leaving for a period of time, then CACI is going to be okay with it. And I specifically want to mention Kurt Knobloch, Tricia Schreier, Jim Young, and most especially Chuck Charbonneau, who sat in my cubicle one day and said, "Billy, I know what you do." He said, "Anytime the Navy is okay with you leaving for any length of time," he said, "we're going to do the best we can to support you." So usually my trips run about 2.5 or 3 weeks, but at times they've gone 5 and 6 weeks. And both the Navy and CACI have supported me. Most importantly, absolutely most importantly, is my wife, Cynthia, who frankly probably didn't always understand all this, but she was always tolerant and supportive. She's incredible, and she's here. Let's get her in the frame here so she can say hello. Okay, thank you. And one last huge note of appreciation to the Navy Supply Corps Foundation, because this really is a departure for them. I know they've done here and there an entertainer and a sports figure, but mostly it's people who have succeeded in business and academia. I mean, pursuits that I didn't follow when I retired. Obviously, my interests were elsewhere, as Admiral Epps so eloquently described. And with that, I've got one small anecdote that I want to share with you. And that is that I was Secretary Treasurer of the Navy Supply Corps Foundation back in the 90s when I was on the staff at Athens. The Distinguished Alumni Program was alive and well back then. Many a ceremony did I coordinate, never thinking that I would one day be on the receiving end of this honor. Without fail, every single time, whoever received that award said that I'm humbled. I'm humbled to be honored like this. And I always wondered if that was true. And I can just give you my perspective. I'm absolutely not humbled. I want to emphasize that. I am not humbled by this award. I'm proud. I couldn't be more proud. And I'm thankful to the foundation and all of you for being here tonight, and my wife, Cynthia. I appreciate it so much. This is one of the highlights of my life, and I mean that sincerely. Thank you all very much, and back to you, Admiral Lydon.
Okay, Billy. Well, thank you. And just listening to you, obviously, the passion comes through, buddy. I mean, it's there, and it's incredible. So good on you there. And I talked to Admiral Walker earlier this afternoon, and I mentioned that we were having this ceremony tonight. And he passes on his best congratulations to you. And I have to tell you honestly, he stands proud beside you this year. He thinks it's an absolutely great choice. So you're right to be proud, and good job there. So we look forward to watching your continued success, and particularly because you worked with the DA program before, you know the commitments of a DA and the engagement that we expect out of you. So we look we look forward to that in the months and years to come. So more on that later. But yeah. So in closing, I guess just a couple quick comments. As many of you have experienced moving an event online like this, you know how much work it is and how much preparation. So just a quick moment for me to give my sincere thanks to our foundation executive director, Dan Pyack, and his tremendous team, Cindy Inglett, Tara Neville, and Dina McMaster, all of them, and the board members that helped as well, Pete Eltringham and Bud Schiff, both from the just recognition side of the house there. So thank you to all of them. And lastly, thank you again to Admiral Epps. It's just wonderful to have you take the time to join us this evening and making it so special for Billy. So the foundation, it's going to continue its mission of taking care of its own. And as you saw tonight, we had the pleasure of recognizing one of our own, Billy Dodson. So with that, one last congratulations to you, Billy, and to Cynthia for standing beside you there. And we wish you all the best in the future. So to everyone, thank you. This completes the ceremony, and have a great rest of the evening.